another episode of ASAP, the Afrikan Social Activism Playbook. I am one of your hosts, T. Jamal, joined as always by my sister, Michelee. What's going on today?
Hey, brother. I am doing pretty good right now. I'm all,
Yeah.
like I had a I had a pretty eventful day. I have a thing with some of my girlfriends here. A couple of my girlfriends here, we'll get together some days and cook a meal and eat together,
Oh, that's
get
dope.
our
That's necessary.
yeah. So I'm coming off of that today. So I'm nice and full. And
That's cool.
yeah, so I've had a pretty good day so far.
Yeah. Today has been an interesting roller coaster of emotions. And
Hmm.
so it's been quite interesting. All is well, though. All is well. I
That's
am
good.
my body is getting accustomed to this night job, so that is good. I keep laughing at myself, but
Right.
I'm getting back accustomed to that type of work. But
Right.
other than that, my mother just texted me and said that today is the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington.
Oh wow, the 57th.
Yeah.
Crazy. Mm.
Good old I have a dream speech that they keep
I
using over
know.
and over again to water down my man, Dr. Martin Luther King. But
And
he was more than that
right.
speech.
Okay. And he was saying a whole lot more in that speech other than that statement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's interesting to and important it's important to commemorate these types of anniversaries and even be aware of them. So I'm glad she was
Mm.
around to be aware and bring it to my attention.
Right.
Yeah. So that's cool. But as you guys know who have been tuned in to the show, this is volume 2 of Poe Righteous Teachers. And, really trying to break down the myth that you have to be, this struggling, downtrodden person just to be an effective activist, right?
Just to be
It's not,
real.
that's right. To prove your worth or your genuineness, right? That's the word.
Yeah.
Sometimes words don't sound
Right.
right,
I know.
but to prove that you're real, right? Dave Chappelle had a skit called "When Real Goes Wrong," when keeping it real
Woo.
goes wrong, and sometimes people just be keeping it too real, and it's like
Okay.
there are times to be in certain places. There are times to advance. There are times to be engaged in a certain way. There are times to pull away. There are times to expose people to new things, right? And it seems like sometimes, and I know for me growing up, like I grew up in a housing project, a lot of the things that we were exposed to were
Mhm.
very limited. We weren't exposed to a lot of options in careers outside of policeman, fireman, ambulance, like doctor, lawyer. And so sometimes we limit our view on blackness because we have a limited view of what is possible, right?
Mm.
And so I believe that plays a big part of why we constantly pull down our leaders when they do start to advance financially, or we're always questioning where the money is going when we're donating to organizations. Like we said
Mhm.
yesterday, we are not discouraging you being aware and constructively critical, right?
Mhm.
Make sure you know what's happening, but we don't see it in the form of construction. We don't really even see it in the form of critique. It's not so much critique as just a distrust from the get-go. And that
Absolutely.
is the problem that I have with it.
Right. Yeah. I think it's definitely, I think, we keep talking about like this, like it's like a distrust amongst us. And I don't know where the root of that is. You know, it seems to be it seems to go like pretty far back. It's well in some cases, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
think because also
Yeah.
speaking to like some of our parents, you know, and people in their generation, sometimes, you know, it was more of a trust thing with even like, you know, with neighbor type relations, right? Where people leave
Right.
their doors unlocked or, you know, other people, you know, that in the community are welcome into your home and around your family, you know, and so I don't know, but somewhere over the period, you know, between then and now is, I mean, major moves. But I think about stuff also like when I watch older documentaries, um, especially like something like Who Shot Malcolm X, and
Mm.
even before that, I think it was like Black Power mixtapes or some documentary or something I was watching
Mm-hmm.
years back, and just seeing how comfortable some of the like informants were, you know, speaking about how they didn't mind, you know, or like were excited to kind of like infiltrate, you know, and drop the dime, you know, drop dimes on them. And I don't know. I
Yeah.
think a lot of that. Then you also got to think about like the drug era, you know, the big boom in the drug era and how situations like that, you know, because they were in the community with their own people, and a lot of times there, you know, a lot of people committing these crimes against their own kind, you know, naturally because that's
Yeah.
they're sharing that space with them. But I think, you know, so it's a lot of things that I think that could have gone into it, but it's definitely a problem, like across the board. We are just automatically skeptical, you know, about what someone's intentions are, especially coming out of our areas and they're claiming to do something good.
And we constantly are on here talking about, you know, being aware of the Hoovers, being aware of those who come with the intentions of, you know, infiltration.
Yeah,
But it we have to get to but you know what's funny? The people who infiltrate usually are the ones that they're not coming in flashy. They're coming in
yeah,
right next to you. They're sitting right
yeah,
next. We question the ones who are doing the work, who are showing face, who are
yeah,
actually putting themselves out front. So it seems like we have a basis of where the mistrust comes from, but we
right.
miss it's very misguided, and like the targets are all the way off,
Hmm.
and it just doesn't make sense to me. Like you have the Terry Cruises, you have the I heard Isaiah Washington is a new culprit. He had
Oh
some
God,
type of
no.
crazy tweet a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I know. I was very disappointed.
Mm,
Um, and I'll find the tweet and I'll share it later. But it was just we have the people. They'll let you know who they are now, and we still have to be aware. But it is just baffling to me when somebody has the right intentions, while we aren't just trying to have a conversation with those people. We rather just tear them apart
right.
and just tear down everything that they're trying to do. Oh, Jay-Z is laughing on the stage with Roger Goodell. You know,
Hmm.
he's no good. And nothing
Right.
he said prior is
Mm,
irrelevant. Is
right.
just all out the window. Everything is all evil now. And
Hmm.
it's always one extreme to the next. And there has to be balance in this conversation. It has to, first of all, be a conversation. And
Right.
that's the problem.
Hmm.
It's talking act across the board. You're not doing this. You can't do that. You represent the wrong thing. You're depicting
Right.
us wrong. You're doing it the wrong way.
Right.
And when was it ever, had where we came to an agreement of what the right way is? Of
Mm,
like actually saying, I would like for it to be presented, you know, have more images of this instead of all of that. Because like
right.
even when we had like black exploitation, like introducing black people in Hollywood as the heroes, you had people like Jesse Jackson who came up with the term black exploitation as a form of demeaning and downing those films.
Mm,
Now, based on the history of a Dolomite and a Shaft and a Coffee. Now you have other up and coming people who grow up and see, oh, that's a possibility for me. Exposure.
Right.
Because before that, our main roles in Hollywood was to be the help or to
Right.
be a part of a minstrel show, right? So it was a step forward. And instead of seeing it as that and saying, oh, wow, this is the first time I've seen a movie where the black person isn't the first person to die, or they don't die at the end, or they're the hero. Take that frame, and then with your influence, a person like Jesse Jackson can say, hey, let me talk to some of the directors. How about we make 8 movies with this image and 2 movies with the other? 2 pimp movies for every 8 positive black neighborhood stories.
Right.
Can we do that to balance it out? Like, but no, you just go on your soapbox and just demean it and down it the same way that, you know, the parents, this is what led to the crime bill that everybody is, you know, up in arms with Hillary and the Clintons about, and even Joe Biden. It was black parents who were listening to the music and like breaking the CDs and those things. And instead of trying to come together and have a conversation with the artist and saying, we understand that you're telling your story, but how about we present it in this way? Or even listen to the whole album. Like if you listen to an entire NWA album, you got the gangster stuff, but then you also have songs like Express Yourself. On a Tupac album, you got a Brenda's Got a Baby and you got a I Get Around.
Right.
There's something in, are you even looking for the element that you can work with?
We don't.
And maybe
a lot
you
of
can
times.
talk to the artist. Exactly. And that's the problem. We're so quick to cancel. We're so quick to destruct our own instead of having that conversation and seeing just how far we can go. There's a way that you can use that influence and say, okay, I see what you're doing. I see what you're saying. Right. I actually listened to the music for myself. Now,
Right.
I don't agree with this part, but I see merit here. Maybe we can work together on this part. Okay, your voice is reaching the youth, have their influence. We
Right.
want them to be more respectful in that, because we saw it when it was like between 2009. I would say, no, when did Carter 3 come out? It was like 2000 and I feel like 2009. Or right around that time, in every rap song, you heard all these artists talking about having safe sex. And it was almost as if they had got paid off by somebody to mention it in every song. It was in
Right.
every song on the radio. Wrap it up. Oh, I don't have sex unless I got a Jimmy cap on or something like that. They made it still sound cool within the context of the rap, but they had the message in there to promote safe sex. And I don't know what that lobby was in the music industry, but it was very clear that some mandate came down that every rap song had to have that in there. So why can't we do the same thing? Understand the merit of the music, and instead of fighting against the current of the influence of the music, work with the current of the influence of the music, or work within the current of the influence of the people, right? Instead of tearing down a Jay-Z for doing a deal with the NFL, saying Jay-Z has the power. He's a power broker. He has the power to get a seat at the table with a Roger Goodell, who has the ear of all of the billionaire NFL owners. So instead of us as a community tearing him down just for being at the table, talk to him as a collective and say, this is what
And
we
what
want
we
you to do
need
for
and
us
what
while you have that seat.
Exactly. Because that's exactly what we
And
need. And just like we talked about yesterday, just having the tools, we have to use the same tools. Like we're used to like when we hear certain words, certain like trigger words like propaganda and stuff, we can use propaganda, we can use that same tool, but use it to our benefit, right? So like we can, like you were talking about just now with the music, they had a certain message that it seemed like they all had to get across. They made it cool, right? So that's a way, that's a tool. Actually,
Mhm.
music is very powerful, and everybody around the globe listens to our music. And so if we
Yep.
need to put a certain message about ourselves or to ourselves or whatever, just say we started rapping about financial literacy, which I think has been made cool. Like when you hear about like Nipsey, well, you know, when we hear Jay-Z, like far back, and you know, with Jay-Z from Reasonable Doubt, you know, to 444, and then you listen to
Mhm.
Nipsey, you listen to, you know, more people, is becoming cooler to talk about how they're going into real estate, they're diversifying their portfolio, like, you know what I mean? And you, it's talked about now in pop culture, it's now popular. And so if we want to actually put these messages in there, like it's a way for us to make it cool, because we are the cool, basically. You know, we always have a way to influence the
And
culture.
it's funny, right? Because I see this thing coming from two sides. I see people who just detest, like the example of Jesse Jackson and calling those films black exploitation, and just
Mm-hmm.
not seeing any merit in their existence at all, right? And you have the same thing with the parents in the music. And so what's going to happen as soon as you tell people who like that stuff that it's bad for you? They're going to go after it even harder. So you
Mm-hmm.
are, when you go against the current like that, you're not doing anything that is actually going to improve the validity of your message. Or
Yeah.
just like we were saying yesterday, what is the result that you want?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want the result, or do you want to be right?
Right.
And like, do you want the result, or do you just want credit? And those
Mm-hmm.
are real questions that have to be asked, because I've seen
Oh,
that, right? And so you get the rejection. And then you see it on the other side, where a teacher in the classroom will see the influence of hip hop, and instead of doing it the right way, where they break down the
can use
songs
it.
that the
Yeah, they
children are
can use it.
already listening to, they
Mm-hmm.
start to do this like corny, we gonna rap math to the kids.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Get out my face with the 1 + 1 = 2. And then they got the old school flow.
They
Like, y'all still doing,
gotta do the
yeah.
dances and the dab and the like.
Like, it's 2015 and y'all still got the Curtis Blow flow. Nobody ain't
I don't know
rap
how
like
you
that
do all
in
these.
20 years. Like, come on, at least at least adapt the new flow. It just doesn't
Right.
make any sense to me.
That's
So hold on,
hilarious.
we got a question. I gotta do something because it's long. It's like a paragraph. Um, so have either of you found yourself distrusting in some shape or form or fashion our people to a certain extent at any? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what we're saying is there are people who are not trustworthy. We
Yeah.
get it. We get where it comes from, because, like we said, black people infiltrated the UNIA. Black people helped get Marcus Garvey
Right.
deported. Black
Right.
people helped destroy the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Black
Mm-hmm.
people helped, do all types of things. The first black person ever hired by the FBI was hired to infiltrate Marcus Garvey's organization, the UNIA.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
they got hired.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that there is a reason for the mistrust. I just believe the mistrust is misguided. I
Yes.
believe if
Yes.
we're going to be aware, it has to be constructive. I think we tear down those who are actually doing the right stuff,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and we let people slide who doing the untrustworthy stuff.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't make
like
any sense to me.
right. Yeah, it's just crazy because like my antennas definitely went up, you know, like upon learning about how, you know, even a lot of our own like were infiltrating the movements. I'm like, how did all of these
Yep.
plans fail? Like they were brilliant plans. Like everything was moving, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and how did this
Yep.
end? And when it disappointed me, but you know, it really wasn't a surprise because like in this situation though, like you have like just low self-esteem, morality, all kind of stuff, you know, when you've been through the types of things that we've been through. And even when we read like the Willie Lynch letters and stuff like that, like we saw that even with that whole attitude, I've always grown up hearing this about the field slave and the house slave, you know what I mean? And how it's like a bad relationship between us, that it was created, I think even outside of us, but we tend to like stick to this narrative. It's always like a versus situation. And I mean, so we definitely like just growing up and being conditioned with that mindset because we see it all the time, and so I purposely just try to make it, a point, like at least in my life, to be more trusting and not like when it comes to like shopping with Black owned businesses, I make it a priority. First of all, I'm always encouraging other people, I'm that type of person, like we order our clothes detergent from a Black owned company and we live overseas, right? And so we have to order it before we run out. It's easy for me to walk down the street or drive down somewhere and pick up some clothes detergent, but I'm that, serious about however I can get all of my resources intentionally spend my money with Black people. And so I would recommend a lot of these products and services and things. And the response I always see is that I often see is like, well, how this and that, is it made with the right material? You know what I mean? It's always like you don't question Tide, you don't question Gain,
You've never questioned
Tide. You don't question
ingredient
any of that stuff.
Ever.
But now you want to question this Black owned detergent brand. And it's just like, okay.
Nah, they did the same thing. Master P just came out with like the Uncle P's rice. He got the Rap Snack cup of noodles. He got the Uncle P's syrup, since they got rid of Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima as these symbols, because those people weren't getting, but they were Black faces on white owned brands. So Master P was like, okay, I'm gonna make some syrup, I'm gonna make some boxed rice, and I'm gonna make some noodles. And the first question, what's the ingredients in the noodles? You've never, he said, I got the same manufacturer as the Mauritian noodles.
Or something like that.
And it's like, you ain't never got, people buy a cup of noodles from 7-Eleven every day, ain't never looked at the ingredients.
Never look at the ingredients. But now all of a sudden you like, what he put in
now Master P making some noodles. What is in these noodles?
It's crazy,
like that type of unhealthy distrust.
Yes,
what
exactly.
We're talking about. It don't make any sense.
It's counterproductive, right? Because
when you try to when you try to explain it, right, when you ask them the merit of the distrust, oh man, I don't trust it coming from Master P because he came up as a rapper. Well, you don't even know the person who make the other ones.
You don't even know.
Like, so why? Right. When you break it down, just like we said, sometimes when you say stuff out loud, you realize how dumb it sounds.
Right.
Like, oh man, my reasoning is stupid.
That is crazy though. It's real, because you got to think about I think like one thing that popped up in my mind, like I heard him explaining that situation with the rice. And it's like, whoever questions, I know y'all ain't looked up the manufacturer, looked up the process that the rice is going through. Like, it's the same rice, literally. And it just made me think about how like maybe I think part of it could be us not seeing how it's possible to break into these markets, because even when like how we are like the largest consumers of a lot of different, products and services and stuff, right? But you don't see many Black owned. We consume a lot of like with hair products and stuff, right? Only until kind of recently have we started seeing, an increase in Black owned hair care and skincare products. But we have been consuming these products without a question, and I think it's because sometimes maybe we don't know how to break into those markets. And so maybe when some of us break into it, it's like, how they do that? How they get to do that? So
exposure.
I don't know. Yeah.
Exposure comes in
to make it normal.
Exposure comes in two ways, because you blame, it's like the black boy fly situation, right? Again, it keeps coming up. you feel like because that person made it, it is halting your chances of getting there because, okay, it can only be one at a time, or that person has something that I don't have, or exposure can work in the positive way where you see more of this and you start to become normalized and say, okay, that's possible. Because they only see one person doing it, they only see one Jay-Z, one Master P, one Diddy. But then is it just one Jay-Z, one Master P, or one Diddy, or is that three people? So it's now it's becoming normalized that you see that this is a possibility to reach that level. How are we not taking that as encouragement? Why are we taking that and being discouraged by it? That's something that we have to really look at our mentality, because we don't look at the drug dealer and say, I can't be that.
Yeah, that's so true.
So that's just
so true. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that is still, it's baffling. So I wanted to, since we're talking about, poor righteous teachers, and we hit on it a little bit yesterday when we were talking about people challenging Kaepernick just because of how he was brought up, because how he was raised. Oh, you were raised this way, so you can't really be genuine in your care for what's happening to all of the rest of the Black people. And we're going to play a clip for y'all, and we're going to discuss this clip. It's going to be something that is familiar to the rest of you guys. So let's watch.
Yo, homie, I'm not supposed to say anything, but you have nothing to worry about. You're in. Your word? Me and Carlton got in? Well, not exactly. I mean, you're cool and all, but Carlton, well, he's not exactly our type. What do you mean, not our type? Well, Carlton is not like you and me. You know what I'm saying? No, I don't know what you're saying. Will, Carlton doesn't exactly exemplify what I think a Phi Beta Gamma is. Oh, and what is that? Well, it's not Ralph Lauren shirts and wingtip shoes in corporate America. We don't need a brother like him in this fraternity. Man, he is exactly what you need in this fraternity. Carlton has been a straight A student since preschool. He gives you 150% every time. Look, Will, I realize he's your cousin and you have to defend him, but this discussion is closed. All right. Come on, man. Let's go. I didn't get in. What? Why? Look, I don't know, man. Come on. Just let's go. How dare you not take Will? He's full of potential. That's why we want him. It's you we don't want. Me. But I did everything. I cooked, I cleaned, I hand washed the toilets. Everything your butler does for you. I'm not accepting no prep school, Bel Air bred sellout into my fraternity. Homie, you can stop all that. No, wait, Will. I got this one. You think I'm a sellout. Why? Because I live in a big house or I dress a certain way? Or maybe it's because I like Barry Manilow. He meant Barry White, y'all. Being Black isn't what I'm trying to be. It's what I am. I'm running the same race and jumping the same hurdles you are, so why are you tripping me up? You said we need to stick together, but you don't even know what that means. If you ask me, you're the real sellout. Yeah, that's right, boy.
So, yeah. And I know people who feel like that limit the scope of what Blackness is, right?
Right.
And one of the things that he said in his, even before Carlton came over there, where he was talking to Will, we don't need no corporate America, such and such, Ralph Lauren wearing, right? We don't need Black people in corporate America. We don't need people with a seat at the table.
Come
That
on.
type of mentality is limiting us.
Come on.
It doesn't make any sense. We need to be not only in corporate America, but in the boardroom, on the boards of
Absolutely.
these large
How
corporations, like
do
you
we think?
said, that
Yes.
we're the consumers of primarily.
Right. How do you think it's gonna change if we are not in those rooms? Like even when we're talking about like going into politics and stuff, and people are like right now in these conversations we're having, and they're talking about, like, well, the politicians, the black politicians, it doesn't matter that they're black, they're just gonna be black, just a black face. And why does that not matter when we complain about what's being done to us now and how we're not
Right.
represented fairly and all kind of stuff like that? But it's 98%, older white males, but then we're going to complain
Right.
about us not, like, how do we do this? How are we making this
We
make
have
sense?
to, like I say, it's exposure. It's not understanding how these things work. We don't understand economics. We don't understand
Yes.
politics. We don't understand the intricacies of it. And sometimes we get so woke that we don't know where we are. We don't know that we still exist in a society where there are rules here, and the best way for us to win is know the rules of the game and beat them at it. And like I
Yes.
said, the reason that we do the social activism playbook is to show you that our ancestors have already written these plays. We have the examples of flourishing economic societies, flourishing residential areas of Black people, understanding politics and taking advantage of those roles, understanding economics and taking advantage of those opportunities and building up our community, having that dollar circulate multiple times. We can only do that if we're in those places. If we have because here's the thing, like Atlanta has a bustling airport, right? We had a Black mayor at the time where from the 60s all the way up until now. So that Black mayor, Andrew Young and Maynard Jackson, they made sure that the airport gave certain amounts of contracts to Black owned businesses to have contracts that work in that airport. That's how we use politics. That's how it works. Because they have the intention of seeing, okay, I'm going to put people in place. I'm going to make sure that this percentage of the contracts that work in this bustling economic force, right? And it's not just a economic force of Atlanta. It's not just Georgia. It's the whole southeast region of the United States that Hartsfield Jackson is making an economy for, right? So having us have at least, I think at one point it was at least 40% of the contracts had to be given out to Black owned businesses, Black owned contractors. Like we're talking about the roofing contract, the contract to make sure that the runways stay paved. All of that is money that get paid out to people.
Right.
Like it's not just an airport committee. These are individual businesses, and most of the time, this is what all of those union fights were for in the Northeast. The unions made sure that their people were represented and got equal amounts of contracts in those cities, in New York, in Philadelphia, in Boston, to make sure that those economies stayed up. They employ other people. They train other people in construction, in real like hard, trendy work where you use your hands. And we know how to do all of those things, but you have Black people just as qualified, not getting in, not getting the contracts. When we have Black politicians in place, we can tell them as the Black community, we demand this. This is one of the things on our agenda, and we can make that happen. And them as Black people who want to be reelected will make sure that they do it. Now, we can make the white politician do it as well, but this is the reason that we have to be politically involved. Like, we got to give people tangible results, like stuff that they can actually say, oh, that actually gets decided by that person. Also, my vote, and then beyond my vote, my voice to the elected official can count towards something. Yes. So when you're in the boardroom of the corporate America, you can make sure that Gucci doesn't come out with a sweater that looks like blackface. because the black person and the
They
other
will
black
catch
person
it.
and the other black person at the board would be like, y'all might not want to release that. Who designed that? How did that get past such and such?
And
Like,
that's, and you know what?
throw that in the trash can.
It makes me also think about, like, even outside of the political realm, like in our, you know, a lot of times people wonder or don't see how this same concept like relates to us on the individual level, you know, or where we are, right, in the community as working people and stuff. We have like black gatekeepers, like we have access now to more positions and, you know, resources and stuff than our ancestors, our elders did before. We're in a unique situation, like, you know what I mean, we can be taking advantage of the access that we have now. And I think about like the gatekeepers, like even people working in HR, right? I thought it was so crazy as I was going to an HBCU, and they changed the policy for the business students to cut off their locks. And this is at an HBCU, by saying that they will not, their chances of being, you know, employed will, you know, whatever, because of their hairstyle, because of their natural hairstyle, right? And
That's the
I'm
reason
thinking
I
about
didn't go to
stuff like
Hampton.
that. It's crazy because we, instead of getting in the room to challenge that, we accept it. And right. And so we're all affected by it. We don't stand up for each other and allow ourselves to have that power in those rooms. So if you're a black gatekeeper, right? If you're working in HR, or you're working for a firm, you know, where you giving a contracts and you know, seeking employees and stuff, you can pick some of those people who are professional, who have natural hairstyles, who have braids and locks and, you know, fros and stuff like that. And then that's how we get in the room. We can't, we can't sit there and accept it, but then we'll complain about it, because it's not like we just, you know, we'll just be okay with it. We are, it's not okay, basically, to let that happen. So if you are in a position where you have hiring power, you're in a room with people and you know that you're already a minority in that room, you're the only, you know, you're the token at that table, advocate for some of your people to also get in there, so you're not alone and all the pressure is not on you. But I think that's part of the distrust too, because some of those black gatekeepers have, you know what I mean, have gone in there with a black face. Exactly. They're not
So
keeping
look,
it real. They ain't keeping it real and letting us in.
And back to the Carlton clip, right? So Carlton's father is a judge.
Right.
They're going to walk out of the door of their fraternity direct access to a judge.
Come on.
That's
now.
what I'm talking. Black people don't need access to a judge who can see a case and throw it out, who can see a case and say this isn't valid, who can see a case and see a black person, a young black man being convicted or accused of something and say this don't line up. A black judge who can say and identify with you. That's one of the reasons I get upset with people who just disregard Kamala Harris because she was a DA. Foolish. We need black A's just as much as we need black defense attorneys, because the DA is the person who will accept or tell you the best deal. They can say, you know what, I'm not prosecuting on this. I'm not. Weed, possession of marijuana, an ounce, throw that out. They have the option to suggest to the judge, we're not moving forward with charges on this, or we're moving forward with charges on this crime, but it doesn't merit this amount of time. We're going to give them this, or we can give them probation and house arrest. They can do those things. That's how you have.
Don't let the room, you know, like we already know it started out. We know, like we talked about, you know, so many times before, we know it wasn't meant for us. We know this system wasn't built for us to, you know, to favor us. And so how do we change it? We, you know, either people are just trying to like completely dismiss it by, you know, suggesting that it needs to be torn down. I agree. It needs to be torn down. But in the meantime, what are we doing to even tear it down? What are we doing to work with it to make it benefit us? You know what I mean? To at least make it more palatable. I don't know. Like, you know, how can we change it for us, to benefit us. You know what I mean? And so if we do have access to, or we have people who are trying to fill these positions, working their way up, you got to realize, like, this system that has been here, has been established, not in our favor. We have to change the dynamics of that, you know, who's sitting at that table. We already know it's what, like over 90% of them who have been wronging us. They don't understand us. They don't relate to us. They won't have that compassion and understanding, you know, being able to relate to us and saying, okay, no, they don't deserve that harsh punishment for that. We have to break up those roles. We have to change the dynamics of who's sitting at the table and making those decisions. And how else do we do that?
And in a lot of places, the DA an elected position, so you can also put pressure on them and demand an agenda from them. You can tell them, these are the things that we're concerned about in this community. These things, not so much. So we don't care about those being charged. We want decriminalization of marijuana. We want decriminalization of these little petty pit-pat crimes that you see people, mostly of us, doing. And then you see somebody else doing the same thing and they get nothing, almost no time. And you wonder how that happens is because the DA knows all the loopholes. They know what is and what isn't. And so, you know, in a lot of the cases, I'm not poor right now, but I'm also not in a position to have an attorney on a retainer.
Right.
So if I go to court and I'm trying to, you know, hire some lawyer, some defense attorney, if I have a reasonable DA or reasonable prosecutor, I could balance off the fact that my lawyer sucks.
Right.
Because the DA is like, you know what, this ain't even worth it. We're just going to let this one go.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are in position where we can't hire a lawyer. We got to go talk to the, that's how we end up in a lot of positions.
And exactly. Like, it makes me think about many cases. Khalif Browder. Oh my, like that kind of story. He sat in that jail, even innocent, sat in that jail for 3.5 years, you know, over, and it's just like, because we don't even have the, I don't know. It's just so, it's also, so many things. So we need, but that's why knowledge is power. We need to know these.
Also, a DA could be pressured by our community to say, we want these police arrested.
Yes.
The attorney general can say, okay, indict this person. We won't have to protest just to get arrests and indictments. That's why we need to know more. When we're limiting our scope of blackness to this pole righteousness. And we say we want to elevate into certain positions, and when people get into the positions, we don't want them there. It's like, what is it that we're asking for? Are we complaining just to complain? We have to complain with a solution. I'm not saying don't complain. Again, we're not saying don't be critical. Again, we're not saying don't be aware. All of those things, but direct it in a focused way and have an agenda set, have a result that you're expecting. Okay, so when the person gets in the room, all right, this is what we want them to say when they get to the table.
Exactly.
Right. This is how we want them to go open the door for the rest of us to come in. Just like we said, when one Black-owned business gets a contract to work at an airport, they can't handle that. So they end up doing subcontracts with other Black businesses that hire other people. It opens up the door. It opens up the floodgates for everybody. Everybody has an opportunity to win. That way, you're not looking at it as a black boy fly situation anymore, because you can see that, oh, wow, that one person getting into that space opened up more space for me to get in that space. Who saw me get the potential to create space for somebody else. So it's just, we have to get out of this mentality. I hope that we have seen the last generation of our leaders who have to die poor and have to, you know, have celebrity, you know, confidants and friends pay for their funerals and make sure that their family is okay. Like we talked about a little bit yesterday, Harry Belafonte was helping pay Dr. King's rent and
Mhm.
like household expenses at a certain point, because on the work that he was doing, he wasn't getting the preacher salary because he wasn't at the church. He
Right.
was fighting on our behalf, and we weren't doing anything to make sure that the livelihood of him and his family was taken care of. If that's how
Right.
we want to go out, it doesn't make sense.
I always think about like how we just, as individuals can help those who are putting themselves out on the line, because even when we think about our celebrities, we talked about Colin Kaepernick and stuff yesterday, and and these are people who are sacrificing their livelihood, to using their platform, fighting on our behalf. And not just celebrities, we're talking about just any, everyday people. Martin
Yep.
Luther King, Malcolm X, these people they were regular people, right, in their
Yep.
community. And I always think about like, how do we let them die penniless? How do we let them suffer? We don't know how their families are living. I think when we think of people having exposure, having a large platform, that they balling, like, they must be
Right.
a celebrity out there. They have to travel here and there. They are doing that on their dime for our
Yeah.
for us. They're doing it for us, for all of us. And so I always think about like, what if we set up something? What if we can establish something? I think that like those types of activists who are 100% dedicated, because they have to be. Like activism, this
Mm-hmm.
is a full-time job. You can't just be, one foot in
Yep.
and one foot out. When they are, using their platform, and that's what they're doing, like almost 100% of the time, they do need to get from point A to point B. Their families need to eat. They need to, you know what I mean? They have
Yep.
other needs just like we do. And what if we can only give $1 a month, $1 a week, $1 a month, like, you know what I mean, from the whole community, from the masses? That could be their living wages. That could
Yeah.
help them in a way, like even from love donations. Like, I know, you know what I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing this on our behalf. I can, at the very least, I can give you this. Imagine if more of us just thought on that level instead of just questioning, well, what are they doing? All I hear is, what are they doing with that donation money? Oh, they got new clothes on. Oh, are they using the people's money? And it's like, man, what are you expecting, man? What are we really expecting? What do we want done? Again, like you said, we just need to see the plan, and I think it needs to be drawn out.
So I think that
For
brings
us.
us very succinctly into our next topic, because a plan, an agenda, like setting it out and making it plain for people so that they can see. Tell the
Mhm.
people a little bit about Dr. Claude Anderson.
Okay, so Dr. Claude Anderson. I love him because I first heard about him on the what was it called? The Hidden Colors, right? Documentaries.
Mm,
And so I saw him talking about like economics, how Black people, you know what I mean, in order to succeed, in order to not just survive, but to to live in a society, we have to practice group economics. He has a plan. He's president of, I think he created maybe a company called Powernomics
mm-hmm. Yep.
Corporation for America. And but basically, he's been writing on this like for years, right? I heard him going back even like from the 80s and 90s, I think. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's been writing on this subject, talking about and he has like basically a full plan, like a drafted plan on how we can build economically, and how we use our power. Not just like, we need finances. Yesterday we talked about how our bad relationship with the idea of capital, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think, we have this bad relationship with the idea of capitalism, being used from it, but we need capital to move, to gain power and influence in that society. We plan to stay there. We have to play the game,
Yep.
right? And so he talks about
Mm-hmm.
how we can build, how we should be building, how we should be pooling our resources and buying Black, and buying up the block. If we need this stuff, we need to do it ourselves, right? And so he talks a lot about, he had a book. What's the name of this book? Called A Black Labor, White Wealth, right? This is in the 90s. And so I didn't finish reading that whole book, but I have to go back. He's talking about a lot of good stuff in there. He's even talking about how, when it comes to the political game, right? We have to vote in a block. A lot of times we with some of us who are comfortable in our financial situations, that we think that we can branch off and be individuals, voting as individuals, like, oh, well, the Republican Party is speaking more to me because this is my, I'm in this tax bracket and we have to think as a group, because just because one of us made it or a few of us made it doesn't mean that we're all good. Because right now, like what we're seeing right now, all of these situations happening, everything's still happening to us. These police officers or the judge, they are not caring what background. They're not stopping and interviewing, asking you what degrees you have or how much money your parents have. You know what I mean? So we're all still in the same boat. And he talks just a lot about just working together as a group, cooperating, right? But especially as far as when it comes to economics. And so yeah, I mean, he's just he got some real good information.
The thing I like about Dr. Claude Anderson is he's an older man, but he understands how to put himself out in a way that will reach where people are. So you'll see Dr. Claude Anderson a lot of times with Dr. Boyce Watkins on the YouTube channel. And so understanding even the merits of going out of your comfort zone and going on YouTube as an older person and saying, this is where the people are right now. This is where I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to give my message out. He's been on the Breakfast Club talking about his economic plan, also talking about the curriculum that he has for schools that can help not only just help Black students, but help bring our influence and all the contributions of Black people into a regulated, generalized curriculum where it's not just a Black History Month, but it's ingrained in the curriculum. One of the reasons that I went to Howard University is because the students protested for Howard to change the curriculum. They made sure that it reflected the student body.
See, that's what we need to be on.
They blocked the building because, before you could register to go to class online, you actually had to go into the registrar's office to get your class. In the 70s, the Howard University students blocked it off and wouldn't let anybody pass until the administration actually changed the curriculum. And nope, because you can't even graduate from Howard without taking a credit of Africana studies every semester.
Wow.
And even when you take certain majors, they show you the Black influence of that subject, whether it be math or psychology. I learned more about Du Bois and Frantz Fanon when I was at Howard studying psychology than I did about Jung and Freud, because those are our Black contributions to psychology.
That's amazing, though.
You know what I mean? And so it's ingrained. So when we say HBCU, it's just not, all of them aren't created equal, because the same thing with hair you were talking about that existed. What was that? Clark Atlanta, who had mandated that? Yeah. Hampton University did the same thing. That's why I couldn't stand Hampton, because I knew I wanted to grow my hair out, and you couldn't even join their business school if you had locks. And it was like, that happened. So y'all are Black school.
That happened while I was on the campus. And I just thought that was amazing to hear that. I was hearing that it was being enforced on other campuses. And then I was like, it's no way they're going to do that here. It's at this HBCU. Yeah. But I did also have that experience of like when I, my freshman classes and stuff coming in, taking psychology, and even it was some math class I had even, and they were talking about like Black mathematicians, and I was like, this is great. Everybody needs to have this type of education, and not just on college level. This is why I advocate for, like, for Afrocentric, curriculum and stuff in. We need to start early. Like we really need to start enforcing these
And that's
ideas.
one of the
Learning as adults, we need to learn this information so that we can start teaching our children while they're in the home. And then
yep,
also it should be reinforced when they go out into the school. And we do
yep.
have the power to influence even public schools. We don't have to only have our own schools. There are some public schools, like in some cities where, especially where there are like majority Black, and
Yep.
at least if some of them are not, like, no longer do that, but it was a young lady I was listening to. She had an interview on a Breakfast Club, maybe a couple years ago or something. Angel Rich, but she created like games, like apps and card games and stuff to teach children financial literacy, right? And she even has she talked about her experience growing up in DC, and she was saying it was like 90% Black back then, well, more than 90% Black back then, right, when they used to call it Chocolate City. And so she was talking about how they did learn Black history in their school, like at a public school. They did sing the national Black anthem. Like she was like, basically it was like a Black school, right? And this was a public school. And she's talking about how even with the programs and games that she's and books that she's written on financial literacy, she's pushing for it in school systems. She was talking about this a couple years ago, but she was saying that they are talking about making this a mandatory read in their schools, in public schools, teaching children financial literacy. This is the kind of stuff that we can influence. We always think that,
Yep.
oh, public school systems, they're meant to just funnel us in, and but we can have an influence, and that's why we have to be active, like actually learn this stuff, learn the power that we do have, to influence, to get the things that we need.
So on that curriculum piece, that's one of the the newer things that Dr. Claude Anderson has been promoting. So he got the economic plan, it got a curriculum for the education. So, it's just, and this person is still active, still alive. Like we said, in this social activism playbook, it's not only taking the lessons only from the past, we're highlighting things that are currently happening so that we can be involved as we go along as well, putting these plays into motion, seeing what people are already doing and saying, okay, I had the idea to start a curriculum. Do I start my own, or do I just add on to what this person is already doing? Can I get more done by building on to something that is already, formulated? And it doesn't mean that don't do your own thing, right? If that's the case, if it's just very necessary, but make sure that it's very necessary. Make sure that, you can't collaborate with somebody else. Suss out all of the possibilities so that we aren't we're not asking double of the audience, right? We don't want to ask our Black people to donate to two of the exact same organization, when those organizations could fuse and get much more work done and just be chapters of one another, right? And so we have to be careful with that as well. But we talked about tangible things. We talked about what can be done. What are we doing? And we also talked about, people getting to a level and getting into a room of exposure or access to certain people and actually utilizing that for the advantage of all of our people. So Ice Cube has been very vocal lately, and I really love Ice Cube. I always have been a big Ice Cube fan, because Ice Cube made the greatest hood movie ever, because he showed the real side of what it really feels like to live in the so-called hood. And it's Friday, because it just showed that everything ain't menace to society, where everything is all dark and dreary and everybody's violent. You got elements of that, but most of the time, most of the people just trying to live their life and take care of their family. And I love that portrayal. But Ice Cube now, has gone off and become this mogul, from a writer-rapper to film producer, to now owner of a basketball league, to now using all of those power moments and all of that influence that he has in all of those rooms that he's been able to get into. And now he's challenging our political system to sign this contract for Black America.
Right.
And in that contract are tangible things that we need from these politicians, and it's a contract. So if you sign it, you are making a binding agreement that you're going to not just talk about doing stuff while the campaign is going on. You're actually going to go into implementation of these things that we need. Talk a little bit more about the actual contract.
Oh yeah, he has so many good things in here, and I've seen him speak on it, on different interviews and stuff recently. And basically, he's saying like it's not perfect. He's like, I know he's working on other people who do have more insight,
Right.
on these things that he's talking about. So he's like, this is something that's workable. It can be altered, it can be added on to, and so basically all that we've been talking about, like we need a plan. If we have an agenda, it doesn't matter who the politician is. If we have this plan, we can take it to anyone and demand things. We have our list of demands, right? We have things that we need to accomplish. And when we have that plan laid out for us, now we can see, okay, what does it take to get from this point, to that? What resources do we need for this? Who do we need to talk to for that? And so he basically thought to write out this contract with a contract with Black America. And I think he was talking about having any politicians, who we'd endorse, and kind of guarantee our vote to, that they sign off on this, you know what I mean, and help us accomplish these things on this list. Because no longer are we being pimped out for our vote, right? We have to realize, in order to make moves, in order to get things done, we have to do it the proper way. We have to, go there with our list of demands and stop waiting on people to change their hearts and minds, and give us a little crumb here and there, and so he has stuff on here about judicial reform, education resources, and let me see, he had a lot of stuff. He had police reform, of course. He was talking about removal of Confederate monuments and institutions, named after Confederate leaders and stuff. He's talking about jobs and different resources, like with vocational training and things like that, like different resources that will help us progress. And he even has something in there I wanted to read off, because he has a section in there at the end where he's saying Black is called Black responsibility. And I'll read a couple sentences off of that. He said, basically, with all of these things that we're demanding, the line of events that have led up, to where we are in society, a lot of our people are in the ghettos, the problems that we have, we know that this long history has led up to all of this, right? We're frustrated, hopeless, and turn to drugs and violence and all kind of stuff like that, right? And so he's saying that he says, as we gain social and economic equality, we must begin to dissolve any bitterness in our hearts for past wrongs. We must become better citizens who are more productive on all levels of American society. We really must step up after we pass the contract with Black America with no more excuses left in the kittle. Our entertainers should be persuaded to deliver more positive content that leads our youth to make better choices in life. A new pride must develop with these new opportunities, and we must fight against negativity, frustration, hopelessness, depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, crime, and violence. I thought that was very important to also put in there, because like I was saying before, with politics, I think that we have been used to politics happening to us, right? We haven't been seeing how our participation really gets us anything. Like we think that because we were like owed something, right? We've been wronged. And so people who have been wronged, you have to make it right. Though we're expecting the people who have been doing us wrong, who have done us wrong and are continue to do us wrong. Like you said, that you expecting the person who shot me to call the ambulance for me, right? We tend to do this, to have this mentality. We have to also step up, like on our part. How are we being intentional? You know what I mean? And bettering our situation. We have to be more active in changing our story and and where we're going in the future. We have to be active on that as well. We're demanding these things, when it comes to supporting Black businesses, we have to change our minds on that. Start raising our children to, hey, even if we got to drive, show your children, even if we have to drive 5 miles out the way, we going to this Black owned store. Okay.
Yep.
Who are these Black farmers and stuff that we, what stores are allowing these Black farmers to show to sell their produce, right? We have to like actually be looking into that and being intentional about supporting our own, building with our own. And we cannot buy into this idea, like a lot of people will say, with Black people, with all of these Black owned businesses and a lot of Black people saying, we're going to buy Black. A lot of people try to pull that over, reverse racism on us. And we can't buy into those messages, because when you look at any other community, other minorities, and it's crazy because Dr. Claude Anderson talked about this too, seeing as other minority groups come into, other ethnic groups come into America, right? Because we were the second, group, as far as in numbers in America, right? And so now you have other communities of people coming in, right? They're not going to be thinking about what we've been through. They don't care about that. They have been hard situations, especially when we're talking about like people who have like immigrants who have come from a worse situation. They're coming to this country to better their situation. They're not thinking about how we're all torn up because of what happened to us. They're not going to take the time to research what happened to us. They're coming in and they're going to, right? They're going to scramble for their resources. What are we going to do? Are we going to sit there and let everybody surpass us because of what happened to us? Like, no, it happened to us. It's so unfortunate. Guess what? They might not give us reparations, right? We deserve them. It might not happen, right? It might not happen. It ain't happened yet. Everybody else then came in and got reparations, even stuff that didn't happen on American soil. They came in and they got their reparations. We haven't gotten ours. So guess what? It might not happen. We're not waiting until it happens for us to make moves. So what do we have to do? Right? And so, but yeah, like it's so many different layers to it. We just have to really step up and do the work. Oh yeah, sometimes we're so woke that we're sleeping. Absolutely. Take a nap. Take a nap.
It's just like, tangible, set out rules, and being able to speak to people on their level where they can actually understand it, being able to give out the information and the knowledge. Like, I like our vibe because I didn't come on here to throw the thesaurus at people. I can go into my research mode when I'm in that environment, but when I'm trying to give the information to the people, that's not the mode that I need to be, talking in. And it's very necessary for us to understand Ice Cube, a celebrity, at his tax bracket, doesn't have to care about what we're going through as the everyday Black people, right? He could be easily just scapegoating into Black bourgeoisie zone. But we have to make sure that we don't get into a place where we're challenging his intentions just because he's a celebrity.
I've seen that
is ridiculous.
I've seen that with people talking about Ice Cube's thing. They're saying, well, he's rich. He doesn't really care. None of this stuff concerns him. And it's just like, really? We need people.
I've seen people that I know on social media, and it's like, because there was that clip that came out about Ice Cube challenging the Democratic Party and was saying that, we just can't. And they were saying that the influence would be, dangerous in a way because it would make people not vote at all, and which would help Trump. But again, like we said, with our agenda in place, I don't care who wins the next election. It really
doesn't matter.
I know I'm not supporting the idiot in office right now. I know I'm not supporting him. And I will encourage and use my platform and my voice to tell other people not to support that. However, I want people to pay attention to the entire political structure, to the system, how it works. It moves off agendas. It moves off numbers of people. It moves off of money. The
Yes.
Black community has all of that.
Capital. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have access to all of it already. We just have to know the rules. We have to know how it's played. We have to get our local. Because the thing is, economics and politics are trickle up. They're not trickle down. It doesn't trickle down from the president down to the governor, down to the mayor, down to the city council. It goes up from the constituents to the city council. We can make them move. We can make the school board move, who makes the mayor move, who makes the governor move, who makes the Senate and the Congress move. They're our representatives. We make them. They're not the puppets to us. We're not the puppets. We're the puppeteers. They've shown us and taught us about politics as if the constituents are the puppets. And we let them run away with that. We're letting the puppets take the strings.
Exactly.
We're the puppeteers.
Oh man, I'm telling you. But that's why we have to know this system. And I think, and that's what, of course, what we're trying to do, what our intentions are with the social activism playbook is to package it up in a way and be able to speak the language of the people. Because like, even me, I'm kind of new to this. I'm pretty new to this, like, being aware of what it takes, like, for our involvement in politics and everything, like figuring out the strategies used and stuff, because at one point I did not believe in any of this stuff. I was like, and it was pretty much based on what I've heard and stuff, but as I'm getting older and wiser, and I'm learning these things for myself, I'm like, we have more of a responsibility than we think, and so, yeah, we just have to know, we have to package it up in a way for people to see the plays, right? We gotta first,
this is the
like,
thing I'll say to you.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing what Ice Cube is doing with this, because he is using his platform, his influence, and saying, hey, this is what we need to move forward. This is what we always been talking about, is having an agenda to present to get things done. Otherwise, we're just running around with like chickens with our head cut off.
You being new to this and like almost televising your journey into learning it is one of the best things that could happen, because now other people who don't know don't feel like that it's so far-fetched, that it's so out of their reach to learn or to get access to it. I am a better math teacher than my friends who math comes easy to them. Because math doesn't come easy to me, I can empathize with the student who's struggling.
Right.
I understand that it didn't just come into your brain, the answer. If you're a math teacher who math comes so easy to you, you get frustrated easily with the student who's struggling.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand why it's not easy for them.
So true. So true.
Basketball players who were the superstars make the worst coaches, because they don't understand, why can't you do what I just did? Michael Jordan is a horrible coach. Magic Johnson was a coach after he retired. He was a horrible coach because he was so good. He expect his level of expectation of the talent of just the basic 6-man off the bench. The 6-man off the bench ain't Magic Johnson. It's not Michael Jordan.
Right. But they were exceptional players.
Doc Rivers, who was a 6-man, is an excellent coach because he knows that he had to work extra hard just to make the team. So he can talk to all the players at all the levels and coach at a different pace. Phil Jackson was a basketball player. Nobody remembers him as a basketball player.
As a player,
remember him as a coach. But he won a championship as a player, and he won 8 as a coach, because he knows how to talk to the people on the bench. He knows how to talk to the people who has to get cut, because he had to get cut. He know how to talk to the superstars, because he had to deal with superstars. So sometimes it's very is very necessary for those of us who are struggling to learn the information. We're the best teachers because we can empathize and really deliver the information to the people who don't know right now. And we can understand that they don't know yet.
Yes.
We understand the concept of yet, the concept of, oh, it's possible, of potential. Like if you have the talent, you don't understand potential because you never had to grow into anything.
Exactly. I think
came
that's
natural
so,
to you.
yeah, it's so crazy though, because, oh shoot, just thinking that we need, to think about more ways to educate people, because like I said, I'm like how I'm learning about all of it, like the political game and stuff. I'm learning through research, through like how did our elders accomplish these things back in the 60s, you know, and how did they do this, right? And a lot of them, like we were talking about, a lot of them are still alive. A lot of the people we named the past few days, you know, they're still alive. You know, and they were strategists. They had this stuff down packed. They were able to work the system, working with outwardly racist politicians. They still got all of these laws and things passed and that we're all benefiting from today, right? And I think it's just so crazy. Like by me learning this stuff though, like I learned it through that. And I actually saw some things like the planning part, the strategizing from watching some movies like Selma, for example, right? And you see them in the rooms, you know, talking about the strategies, and they're going back and forth, sharing ideas, and you know, this is how we'll get them, and this is who we need to, you know, we'll do this, and then the result of that situation going on, we're going to get their attention, and that's who we really need to talk to. You know what I mean? Like, so this is the we have to create like more entertaining you know, ways to educate our people. And I thought about recently that Hamilton musical has been all the buzz, right? And I watched it and I was like, I didn't know anything about an Alexander Hamilton before I watched this, but I am so entertained by this. I was on Google looking up some of these people, like, is this real? Who is this? You know, I'm like, it made me want to learn. And I was like, I was saying while I was watching it the whole time, I was like, I wish we had more history lessons that were like this. Like these things, like you were talking about before a few episodes back, talking about how, you know, we can put certain things, you know, in music and it will stick with us. If we have like, you know, songs that we include some of our, you know, activists and you know, important people from our history, if we make songs about them and sell them to our children, right? Our children would grow up knowing this. We will have it in our memory. It's so many random things. What was that old cartoon that used to teach oh my God, that used to teach, like, it was like civics lessons and stuff in there. Oh my
I know
God.
Schoolhouse Rock.
The Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, exactly. Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like when we think about entertaining education, and I had the experience as a kindergarten teacher, right? I'm teaching young children, and I will always have to come up with creative like ways to teach them things, because some students can sit there at the desk and learn, you know, but of course, when they're that young, you can't have them like, oh, just sitting at a desk like, yes, ma'am, yes, you know, and you have to get creative with them at that point. And I think even with us, our attention span is just so short sometimes, because this stuff is boring. Learn about politics, like who remembers lessons from civics, you know, class? Like who remembers any of that stuff? I'm horrible in geography, other than my experience traveling the world as an adult. That's my biggest geography lesson, because I took one of those tests. I took one of those random tests of naming, filling in the names of different US states. I failed that thing. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not in school, because I cannot tell you like where Idaho, and I can't do that. I'm horrible at that. I got like majority of the African continent. I got like
I
other
can do that
places
one
in the world,
easy.
but Yeah, I can't do the American geography. I was like, oh no, I would fail school right now. Horrible. But we need to make it.
No,
I'm trying to think if we made it more entertaining. Like I was watching something the other day and they were saying that
definitely.
oh my God, now I forgot the name of it. But it was like one state, it looks like it's sniffing another state. So now I see the nose and I'm like, that is that state. And then the one below is, so
New York,
I'm
New York is shaped like a dog, and
see,
then
I didn't know
there's
if I learned it like that, I can apply it.
Minnesota, Iowa,
That's what it
what
was,
is
yeah.
it? Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana. They form an elf.
See,
Like if you look at it, it's an
if
elf
I
with a
learned
face, a
this
little
stuff,
elf hat, and Louisiana is like the boot, and they call it Mimo the elf. That's how I remember it. So you
that's
got stuff that
crazy.
is to the east of Mimo and to the west of Mimo, and then that's like Mimo is the Midwest and a
Yeah,
part of the South, and
that's
then you
so
can just
crazy.
base everything else around that little dude in the middle of the
See,
country.
I
But
wish I learned it like that. Like that would have made it easier for me. And so now I'm thinking about how can I create resources, like learning resources for other children to learn, other
mhm,
lessons. We just have to get that creative because this stuff is not, it's not going to be entertaining to learn, you know what I mean? And that's how
yeah.
it passes us by.
That's why we can't always knock we devour the messenger.
Oh man,
Is
tell me
the
about it.
message valid? I don't
Yeah.
care who it's coming from.
Hmm.
Cardi B, Ice
Right.
Cube, whoever. If they're saying the right thing, if they're exposing people to things that they would never be exposed to,
Yep.
I don't care. It doesn't have to be me because I did all the research and I got degrees and I
Right.
feel like it should be
Exactly.
me. Like we said
Mhm.
yesterday, I feel like it's jealousy.
Mhm.
How about you be the Ella Baker to the Cardi B and just be
Hello.
the person feeding the information to the Cardi B?
Hello.
Okay, they gonna listen to Cardi. Let me give her the right information to say. Right?
Mhm.
Say this. Say it however you need to say it to deliver it to the people who gonna listen to you. But
Absolutely.
hit these key points, and we'll get results because that's what I'm about. So we talked about celebrity and we talked about people not like making fun of us overhyping celebrity. I think we do have a tendency to overhype celebrity. So our deconstruction today is Dave Chappelle is he's famous for this little sketch on Ja Rule because during September 11th there was like an event, like MTV News did this whole thing, and that's when Kanye had his no, that was during Katrina, but like the Kanye during Katrina thing of George Bush don't like black people, but then during what was it, during I think it was 9/11 and MTV News, it was like, Ja Rule, what are your thoughts on this? But just listen to Dave Chappelle and then we're gonna discuss it.
Yeah, man, they would. But I'm like, for real, why you care so much what the Dixie Chicks say? It's not like they political scientists and nothing. They just bitches that can sing good. You know what I mean? Stop worshiping celebrities so much. Just don't listen, pay attention. I remember right around September 11th, Ja Rule was on MTV. That's what they said. We got Ja Rule on the phone. Let's see what Ja's thoughts are on this tragedy. Who gives a fuck what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this, nigga? This is ridiculous. I don't want to dance. I'm scared to death. I want some answers that Ja Rule might not have right now. I think when bad shit happens to me, I'll be in the crib like, oh my God, this is terrible. Could somebody please find Ja Rule, get hold of this motherfucker so I can make sense of all this. Where is Ja? Find me Ja Rule.
That's so true though. I can't hear you.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I was saying and it's funny, like in that case, we'll lean on a celebrity when they aren't an expert in an area and they don't
Oh
really have
man.
anything to add. And then as soon as they are trying to educate themselves, that's when we tear them down. So we just all over the place. It's just our
Boy,
relationship
we
to
don't even know what we want. What do we want? We want them to say something, but when they say something, they don't know enough, or they
right.
don't have a place to speak. I think like I would love if there like someone like Cardi B, who she took it upon herself to call these politicians and set up, you know, she went
Mhm.
on Instagram Live with politicians, with current politicians who are running, to ask, what do you plan to do for us, you know, for Black people, and what are your, and came with her questions, you know, and why should we vote for
Yep.
you? If she, imagine with her audience, right? They would have that exposure to these people. We normally would not go and try to watch these
Yep.
debates, or you know, or find, or go on their websites or whatever platforms they're on to find out what they're doing or what their plans are and what they've been talking about. We wouldn't normally have access to that, right? If we didn't go out and intentionally do that. But since we already
Mhm.
follow Cardi B and whoever else, that would have been amazing for her, for us to like see that come from her
Yep.
continuously. Like she could do that every, like for local
Right.
politics, or you know, every 4 years or whatever, you know, or at whatever point that people are expressing interest in, you know, in running, and they're requesting our votes that they want, or anybody that we want, you know, to show up. That could be like, if we can think about using our celebrities, our people of influence, using their platforms, having them use their platforms to do that. And it's already great because that's something that she wanted to do. She was doing it, but you got people, oh,
Right.
well, you don't even speak English, you ain't even really Black. And it's just like, man, what do we really want? Because we needed that. We needed somebody to speak in her language. There are people who were
Yep.
asking to vote, right? We're asking them
Yep.
to vote, telling them to participate. They speak Cardi B's language. She speaks their language. We need that. Multiple voices, not just one person.
Chris Webber was being interviewed the other night because he was supposed to like do the side court commentating for the Bucks game, and we all know the NBA had protested for that evening, and so they were just having a real conversation about everything that was going on in America. And Chris Webber was like, yeah, I want to see more done in the communities. We ask these people to vote and then we abandon them. And in those communities where our people are the most vulnerable, communities that you and I, Michelee, grew up in, and we know that when it's time to vote, everybody comes around. Are you registered? Are you registered? Everybody's
Right.
interested. The politician comes to do the town hall meeting. And then, you know, people go out and vote, and then that community gets forgotten again. Like
Okay.
Joseph E. Boone.
Pimped out.
Joseph E. Boone in Atlanta is the same street as Ivan Allen Boulevard, right? You cross over Northside Drive, is
Mm-hmm.
Joseph E. Boone, or Old Simpson Road for the real people from old Atlanta. And then you cross over Northside Drive on the other side going toward downtown is Ivan Allen Boulevard. Ivan Allen Boulevard is clean, is well paved the whole way. It's, you know, skyscrapers and businesses. Joseph E. Boone has trash up and down the street, doesn't have any grocery stores on it. It just looks like the city forgot it exists. But it's
Right.
impossible because it takes you right. Ivan Allen takes you right to the stadium. It takes you right to the aquarium. It takes you to all the museums. Like you can, so you just keep driving west down Ivan Allen. You're gonna hit Joseph E. Boone, and you're
Right.
gonna be in Bankhead, and you're gonna be on the west side, and you're gonna be like, "Did I go through the Twilight Zone?" And
Yeah.
this is what we're talking about when, okay, you ask these people to vote and you just abandon them. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to be, if we have the information, if we have the voice, we have to speak to them in the language that they understand. We have to go and make sure that we show up beyond the vote. We can't just expect people to know that, yeah, there's more to do after you vote. We have to be there. We have to be consistent. We talk about trust. People don't trust because they only see you when they feel like you need something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, as the people who are so-called conscious, have to go into these communities and make sure that we are there and are an institution there, and not
Right.
just a drop through, where we actually show that we care, that we show that we are genuine. So it's so much to do on both sides, and everybody has to be held accountable. There is no
Absolutely.
accountability without reciprocity, though. It goes both ways.
Right.
So we
Right.
got to make sure that we show people the love, and so we can't just down our celebrities. We can't just down the people who don't know yet.
Right.
We have to keep it going.
And
I just kept, go ahead.
I wanted to say, like, also just point out kind of like, you know, we're saying a lot. I know I'll be saying a lot, right? And I guess, you know, just looking at who my audience is, like on my social media, people who I normally interact with, right? I have friends, family, old co-workers, and, you know, people I went to school with, people I travel with, you know, and a lot of these comments that I see where they are tearing down these people, these are the so-called educated and career-driven people, and you know what I mean? And so a lot of times we like to blame the people in the hoods, right, for being the ones that's uneducated. You're supposed to be educated. You're supposed to be helping them. You're supposed to be helping deliver this knowledge that you gained.
Yep.
But instead, I feel like it's like a crab mentality, crab in a barrel mentality, where we want to hold on to what we learned, to what we know. If you knew about this, right, it's your responsibility. We all have a responsibility to ourselves. And if we start seeing ourselves as that community with responsibilities to each other, you know, being responsible for each other, we would not be so stingy with information and then still trying to pin the downfall on those at the bottom. You know what I mean? Because the people, we constantly ask for people to vote. Like, and now people are upset because they're saying, oh, well, you've been asking us to vote, you know, for so long, and this stuff, it doesn't work. What are we getting out of it? Like you said, they are forgotten. It's the people at the bottom who are forgotten constantly, right? And so we have to just think like I want to address the people who so-called know, you know, more than others. You got your degrees and you had your knowledge, you know, from these institutions, and you work in this area, and you have, you know, so-and-so, you have these different networks. It is your responsibility as well. We're not just talking to the people who don't care about politics. If you so-called care about politics, listen to the people, right, of the neighborhoods that you left, that you abandoned too, right? Because we think about like a lot of those times, like I think about like with this whole, when we had other politicians, we had multiple politicians who wanted to win the vote, right? Instead of, we got stuck with Biden now. And I was so upset with my so-called educated friends who constantly push the people, right? The people at the bottom of the people wanted change. We could have voted third party. We do not have to, you know, with this whole idea of this partisanship, we have to be loyal to the Democratic Party and all this stuff. A lot of people were saying, you know, because you know, well, they might not get the popular vote, you know, they might not get enough votes and stuff like that. If the people want to change, we can move with them. We do have that power. That's why people go after the Black vote so hard. They always pandering to us. We laugh about how they pander to us, but we're not seeing the power in our votes. So it's like we have to vote in a block. It is not for you because you're in a different tax bracket now, that, you know, you can go on with your individual ideas of, you know, well, I can break off, and well, the Republican Party is speaking to me more because, you know, it speaks to my tax bracket. No, we are a community. We have to move as a block like that. We went through this trauma together. We went through this situation together, right? We have to come out together. Otherwise, it does not work. We have to study people like Dr. Claude Anderson, who talks about this all the time. It does not work when we go and separate. What does the enemy do? They come in, divide and conquer. We do this so often, like it happens over and over and over. We just have to think about that. Listen to the people of your community, right? Don't think because he grew, you know, out of that financial situation that you no longer relate to your people. All of these things are going to affect us as a whole, right? And so, just be aware. No, I'm talking to everybody, but especially to those who are so-called educated, and leading the way. Your influence could go a long way.
They got so much to say and don't really want to put the action behind the words. And that's what ASAP is about. ASAP is about immediacy. It's about taking initiative, right? It's about, we have to do this right now. But it's also a playbook of understanding that some of this has already been laid out for us and we don't have to always reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So it's just
already done.
Yeah. But, we do this to encourage people, to show you that it can be done, though. It's not just a rant or rambling about what the issue is. It's the issue, addressing that it's valid, that is real. And then here are ways that we can get to the next level. And then when we get to that level, keep going up to the next level and keep moving forward and keep being productive, though. Always with the mindset of being productive instead of destructive. That doesn't get us anywhere. Or just being at a standstill where we're just bickering back and forth with one another, not doing anything. That's why we, for the past 2 days, have talked about this council of counselors. If you feel like your celebrities, or you feel like your people, or the people who have, self-identified themselves as leaders, aren't doing things up to your standard, then put yourself in a position to counsel them. Instead of counsel them in the way that you want things to be handled. Let them know, speak to them. Show appreciation of the effort that is trying to be made, and then say, I appreciate the effort that you are attempting to make. Here are the things that could make this better. Here is how this can be improved. When you evaluate your employee or somebody on your team, you don't just tear down everything that they do. You tell them, you do a SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, and then the other things, opportunities, and I think threats or something like that. Somebody in the audience, tell me the other 2 letters in SWOT, but do a SWOT analysis. And we can, and when you come to people like that, they're more willing to take it and understand, oh man, I can strengthen myself in this area. Okay, I see this. So these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. So I may have to collaborate and work with this person where their strengths complement my weaknesses.
Right.
Like, it can be complementary, and then you can start to see people collaborate and do cooperations in that way. Don't collaborate with the person who you share all the same strengths with each other. You're not going to help advance each other. You're going to end up blocking each other because you're going to be doing the same tasks.
Right. We need more voices. Like, we don't all learn the same. We don't all speak the same type of language. You know what I mean? And so learn. It doesn't matter who they got the information from, as long as they got the message, right? It does not matter. So don't focus so much on who it is and the personality and however they do what they do. Are they relaying the message? Do we need the message spread? That's all we need to really be worried about, as far as that, the messenger. We gotta spend our energy, more wisely. And like I said, I am currently working, and that's a good challenge that you brought up, as pointing out that, like, while I'm learning, it's the best time to teach, because I'm learning this stuff too. I can share like resources that I find it from. I might hear something like watching a movie or watching a show or listen to a song or something, and I hear like certain information. I'm like, oh, that's how that's done. And because I'm always like, I'll be quick to pull something up on Google or whatever, like, you know, oh, they
Mm-hmm.
said what? I'll go back and rewind, like, oh, this is how this works, right? This is how I'm
Yep.
constantly, my mind is always working, trying to figure out. I'm a fixer, I'm a doer. Like, I'm somebody that I like to take stuff apart, or I want to know how to fix things, right? Or how to make things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how my brain is always working. Like, how does this work? How do you make this? And so that's how I get a lot of my information. I like entertainment. I listen to a lot of music and watch
Mm-hmm.
movies and all kind of stuff like that. So I get my information from different platforms. I also
Yep.
can read, you know, an article, or, you know, or a
Mm-hmm.
newspaper or something like that, go to a news source or watch a video. I get my information from different parts. So I'm not one of
Yep.
those I won't always go to the same news source to get my world news. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
go through different channels to find out
Yep.
what's going on, because it's somebody else
That's
might
good.
explain the situation that I can relate to. And so that's a good
Yep.
idea. And that's a challenge that I'm going to take, like, myself, to help other people around me. You know, I try
Yep.
to, especially now, I try to contact people directly. If I see they're, you know, talking about something, like when it relates to politics or something, I'll talk to them and, you know, in a direct message, and
Yep.
try to give them the explanation, like, okay, I see you got that. This is what I see that you think this is what it's about, but this is my
Mm-hmm.
interpretation of it, or this is what, you know, I found out by researching this. I'm trying to have more of that, like, one-on-one relationship with people, so that they will
Yep.
be more receptive, right? Because everybody
Yep.
won't listen to me. I can be more long-winded. Everybody don't want to listen to everything I have to say. So I would, you know what I mean? I speak to people. I have the ability to speak to people on different levels, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would
Yep.
exercise that more. I would be more intentional about, you know, presenting information in different ways.
And that's what we all have to do. We're all charged to be that council of counselors. If you see
Mm-hmm.
something, and try to build a relationship with the person, and then try to start to understand why they understand certain things a certain way, and see where we can go from there, instead of canceling everybody that we disagree with. It's just not
Mm-hmm.
productive. It's so ridiculous. So, as always, we end the show with actualizing African unity, letting you know that African Unity Initiative is a real nonprofit organization that you can support financially with your time, as well as with in-kind donations of many things that we need, from all the resources, from the work that we're doing in the Caribbean, in Africa, in South America, in Peru, who really need a lot of our help right now. And we're really going to start to promote a lot of our campaigns that are going on in Peru right now, and also in the United States, in Atlanta, New York, and other places. So we hope that you get involved by following us on social media at African Unity, as well as visiting the website, africanunity.us. Mish, let them know where they can find you and how they can support your work.
You can find me my personal website at mishmashworld.com, and my Instagram business page, Mishmash World, and on regular social media at Mishy the Maker. But
And
I
we love you
really,
guys.
yeah, I enjoyed this talk. I love having this series with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving it. And thank
Me
you for
too.
participating and for watching. Yeah. So like,
And we'll see you
subscribe, and
guys next
share.
week. Peace.